Good evening and salutations, my Beyond the Gates fans. So, after a couple of weeks, we finally start to understand why is Joey, really not there, like what his real plans is with Doug. And it's not even so much Doug in a sense. See, he's not there talking to Randy, and he's disappointed with Randy not being able to get Doug, you know, back in the casino and gambling and stuff like that. And he's like, I'm really after Vanessa. See, the idea is that he wants Doug in so much debt that he has no choice but to sit there and get Vanessa to open up her books. He had a conversation with her and they talked about the turnovers, how much money goes in and out. And he pretty much wants to launder money through Vanessa's business. And he wants Doug to sit there and do it. Because Randy's like, there's no way that she's just going to sit there and agree to you. Like, yeah, I'm not doing anything. He's going to do all that stuff for me. And since, Randy hasn't been delivering lately, he pretty much makes a veiled threat. He's like, relax, I'm not going to sit there and hurt you, but you wish I had. Then he's like, how's your ex-girlfriend and your son doing? How are they doing? He's like, yeah, they're good. He's like, okay, let's keep it that way. Now, I knew he was going to do something with Randy. I thought it was going to be something physical, but, you know, that's not going to really serve his purpose in a sense, as far as him being able to move around and stuff. So he makes it very clear that he is, he wants what he wants. He's like, listen, I'm sick and tired of incompetence. I'll do it myself. Now, Doug felt like he's been on this winning streak. He's making his little bet with nurses and stuff, and he gets ready for his next surgery. And the next surgery does not go well, right? And Doug is pissed. He's upset. And Ashley's like, listen, this guy came with a condition. He came in too late. There was nothing you can do, right? But he's still pissed off. He's so angry that he winds up banging his hand on the desk out of frustration and not like either breaking something or cracking something. So now he can't sit there and do surgery for a while. And Joey walks in and he's like, oh, well, that ain't good. Now I'm like, bro, you are really screwed. Now I know what some of y'all are sitting there thinking. Um, that he messed up the surgery because he's been just, working around the clock. That could be a condition, but some surgeons have what they call a God complex, and it just didn't sit right with him. Now Vanessa is not there talking to Nicole about Joey, and at one point, Nicole makes a joke like, oh, about him lying the last time. And he's like, no, it's not even about that. It's about his age and his vanity and everything like that. And she's just like, I don't know if she said this, but I'm sitting there thinking, how do you know that that's not a lie? Like, seriously, up until a point, you thought you were sitting there selling a house to his mother. She talks about how she has feelings for him. It's not love, but it's something. It's obviously something beyond just his physical appearance. It's really sad because it's like she does sit there and say that Doug isn't not there meeting her needs anymore, and she just seemed like she totally gave up, checked out. Now I get that Doug has been working around the clock. He doesn't really sit there and make time for her, right? And that's on him. But when she says things like that, I'm like, but that's also on you. Because you could have tried to sit there and make that work. You can sit there and talk to him, put on your big girl pants, talk to him like an adult, and try to work that out. There's counseling, there's sex counseling, there's options she could have tried other than practically saying, but I still care about him. Instead, she chose to pretty much kind of check out the marriage. Now, again, I'm not putting that all on her because I'm pretty sure he's gotten to that point where she just doesn't care. And he clearly does not care to sit there and fix this relationship. Because when you have outside people like Shanice and that other doctors and they're saying, well, you need to sit there and pay more attention to your wife, you know you got a problem. Now, Kat brings up the idea to Chelsea about having Danny, be like a CEO, a CFO, or whatever. And, she knew that Chelsea was going to be in her feelings. And why not? It's easy for Kat to sit there and be somewhat dismissive. When Chelsea's like, I grew up with this woman, you know? And she nitpicked about every single little thing between the stuff that she wore, her posture, what she ate. I'm surprised she actually went through the whole modeling thing at all. And now that she has a chance to sit there and do her own business, she's kind of like, yeah, I don't need her coming over here and most importantly, taking over because that's what Danny seems to do. But Kat's like, listen, you'll be in charge. You'll be the one to call on the shots. And she's like, I'm not too sure. Now we've seen Danny if you've been watching the show for about 4 or 5 weeks, right? And even though that she may not be in charge, it's within her nature to sit there and just kind of take over things. But she may not even be doing that. She may not even sit there and accept a job offer because her and Pamela are going to be running their own modeling agency. Can't say totally yes to it, but or at least I don't think so. But she's most likely going to do it. Now, okay. So here's the thing about this show, right? Here's the thing about this show and some of the pushback, and I have a bit of the opposite pushback in a sense. I feel like whenever the show goes towards Kat and Chelsea, the dialogue that they use, the slang or whatever, this is not stuff that usually the typical type of people that watch these shows are usually in their 60s, grandma ages. Obviously, I'm not, grandfather or anything like that, but, and granted, I get that they want to sit there and try to get it towards a younger crowd. I get that. But it kind of tunes them out. For me, what tunes me out is every time you go to Anita and Vernon. I get it. They're supporting cast and everything like that. They talk about the glory days or the old days. And I get that's and again I get that's more for like the older people to kind of at least kind of get them more involved because I mean the stuff that they use, the slang, the phones, and when they sit there and talk about things like the shade room, the Breakfast Club. See, I know about that stuff, right? M- and not to sit there and say that older people don't know about it, but I don't think a lot of older people know about the shade room, about the Breakfast Club, and some of the other stuff. But with me, it's like every time that they go to Anita and Vern, I'm kind of just like, and granted, this was a more of a pivotal moment because while she's talking about how it was back in the day, singing and being young and being free and being adventurous, you can tell there's a bit of sadness with that. Yes, she's rich. Yes, she has a family. Yes, she has charities and other things to occupy her time. But that feeling of being on stage, entertaining the crowd, just kind of being one with the music, that's not something that's something that kind of stays with you in a sense. And she misses it. And she misses it so much that, Naomi decides to get the family together to not go to that bougie ass club. I guess they're going to the other place, either that bar or that diner place, um, to go out and eat and celebrate. Now, at first, Naomi tried to make it seem like, oh, let's get the troops together and we'll sit there and do something nice with Danny. In reality, when Danny came over, she had to sit there and say, no, this is for Anita. Um, I mentioned that Ashley and Shanice was there. Alright, I feel like that's about it. I can't think of anything else. It's weird. See, my idea of doing the reviews, I had two ideas. In the beginning, it was just to do General Hospital and the Young and Restless. See, I wanted to sit there and do the Young and Restless reviews because we don't normally talk about Young and Restless. I watch it, I watch all five, but when we got to the Young and Restless part, it was damn near like crickets. So it was like, alright, you know what, listen. I want this channel to sit there. Not that this is just a primary soap opera channel, but with the soap opera part, I want to sit there and represent all the soaps, and that includes Young and Restless. Probably Young and Restless say was that it was good, but I felt like Beyond the Gates was probably the second best one. And I don't know if I'm gonna do it like that, where it's like General Hospital number one, and then whatever soap was the best is what I would sit there and talk about. Because I feel like that's more easier to do than just to sit there and specifically do, let's say, Days. The episode of Days is kind of crap. It's kind of like whatever, and I still got to pull stuff out. Like I can do it, but it's not going to be as exciting as me talking about an episode that's good. And this episode was decent. It was decent. It wasn't. I think I would sit there and say this much. So I've seen people sit there and talk about the gates, how it's gotten boring and everything like that. And I said this to Queen Janet yesterday that people expected too much from the show. They expected too much of this show. They wanted it to be the messiah of soap operas, right? And this show operates on the same level as all the other ones in a sense. There is good parts, even when an episode is not super amazing. There is good parts in it that I can talk about, that we can talk about in the streams. Um, there's good parts, but not every episode is going to be a banger. There's going to be some boring episodes of this, just like there's boring episodes of General Hospital. Hell, you got Bob Guzes up there writing this show. You would never know unless I either told you, or you knew about it, or you read it in the title. Is this giving off Bob Guza? Think about, if you're a General Hospital fan, think about the good old Bob Guza days when people sat there and whined and complained. Think about how good it was. You would never tell that he's writing this show. So I think that people just had too high expectations for this show. And I knew coming into his shows, like, it wasn't like, people were starting to saying, well, the episodes got boring now. It's like, the episodes were always the same in a sense. It was just new. It was a new shiny toy. That's what it came down to. But this will have its good episodes, Young and the Restless will have its good episodes. And then they'll have their boring episodes. But I just want people to understand that this is still a good show. It just is not always going to be a banger every day. And if that's what you're looking for, you're going to be sorely, sorely disappointed. Now, I feel like that's about it for the most part. I can't think of anything else, but as I always sit there and say, write it in the comment section, come to the live stream. I'll be sitting there talking about this show as well as all the other ones. 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, and I will see you in the next video.